Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Leanne Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now.
Today, we're talking with Paige Fingerhut Charnick. She's broker and owner of Beach Equities, and she is a specialist in probate and trust real estate. She has over 30 years of experience across real estate, escrow, and legal fields, and Paige helps families navigate some of life's most complicated transitions. We're excited to dig into how she built this career and what she's learned along the way.
Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between a real estate agent and a real estate broker?
Absolutely. Basically, the way the real estate industry is structured, particularly in California, but across the country, is that real estate agents need to house their license underneath a real estate broker. So there should never be an agent operating without a broker supervising their activities. And it's actually a little bit of a hot topic in the industry right now, just because there's a lot of agents that are branding themselves like, oh, the so and so group, but then they never indicate like, oh, this is the broker that I work underneath or that I house my license with. So always an agent should be supervised by a broker. And I had an agent license for many years, but have had my broker license for the past 3 or 4.
So, are you supervising agents right now?
I am. I have about roughly 10 agents with my company.
How
Wow.
is that?
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Wow. Okay.
Well, the large brokers have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of agents. So I just have my 10 that I worry about, and they all have different roles with me. So our brokerage is based in Long Beach, and we serve all of Southern California. And the agents that I supervise range from brand new agents to longtime veterans. Like I have one agent with us who is roughly 78 years old, and she's like a
Whoa.
40-year veteran, and she's sold the homes in our neighborhood, a few of them like 3 and 4 times over. And then I have a newer agent that's probably had her license for 2 years. I was excited to have her join us because she has a background in interior design, and she came from a staging company, and she has a lot of valuable assets to offer as she grows her real estate practice. So I'm really happy to help them all in different ways. Like, yeah, I supervise their files, but I also am helping them grow their businesses, and they all have different challenges. I would say a lot of it comes down to confidence. My newer agent can build her confidence in feeling like she knows the real estate transaction inside and out, but her clients love talking to her about the market and the aesthetic and like the decor and all of that. And then my agents that are probably older than me in age, they are like, what's this video stuff I need to be doing? And also, there's been a lot of changes to real estate law. So they're like, help me keep my file compliant. Like, I don't want to do this checklist anymore. So, like, you do that part. So they all have different challenges, and I help them grow their business down each path.
Now, you mentioned video. How has real estate changed in the last few years?
Oh my God. That's a very broad question.
Well,
So
like, how has it changed since you started? Like, think about it from that perspective, because that you've been in this business for a while, so I'm sure you've seen
I
lots of
have.
changes.
So I've been licensed since 2006. Prior to that, I worked in escrow from approximately 2003. And roughly 2000, 2001, I worked as a paralegal. And I also grew up in this industry. My dad was a broker. And so I do have a unique perspective about how things have changed. So to answer both of your questions, the long time changes, from like where we started to where we are now. When I was growing up and my dad was doing this business, there were MLS books. Like, people
Mhm.
talk about this like it's an old ancient thing, but it's, not that far back. And some of the brokerages are trying to bring these back, actually. And the listings weren't online. They weren't on the portals. Like the regular general public consumer could not access the listings.
Mm.
And so realtors got a book delivered to their office every week where, my dad would sit and highlight, like if he had clients for particular listings, or like, this one looks like a good deal, or this one's in a good location. Like he had to go through the book to figure out, okay, what's coming on to market this week. And there was a delay in properties hitting the market because that book only came out like once or twice a week. So to where we are today, everything is instant access, instant showing. I mean, you look at like what companies like Amazon, like they're building instant access locks to your house where people are just going to be able
Yeah.
to like walk in the door. We
Wow.
have fractional ownership in the industry where there's companies that are building, luxury, not like your timeshares anymore, but fractional ownership where you own an eighth of a property. I mean, just like those things didn't, not that they didn't exist, but they weren't really readily accessible to the regular consumer. And now everything's instantly accessible to everyone. So I would say that's the biggest change from like where we started to today, or where I started to today. And then to answer your question, Leanne, about what's changed just in the last few years. So those are also big changes for the industry. There's a Sitzer Burnett lawsuit that happened last year that was against the National Association of Realtors, and there was a $400
Mm.
million settlement,
Whoa.
plus more than $400 million. And that actually changed how business is done within our industry. Where that's showing up for the consumer, for a regular buyer or home seller, is that the argument around that lawsuit was around transparency and commissions, right? And how agents are getting paid. And so ultimately, the way it used to be done is that compensation would be offered in our MLS system to a buyer's agent. So if an agent was going around showing property, they would look down a property list and see, okay, this seller's offering X, commission, and this seller's offering a different one, right? Well, now that's not being done through the MLS. That's being negotiated with the offer terms. And so agents actually, like, as the offers are being submitted, and this is actually different across the country right now. Like California is pretty forward on this. The California Association of Realtors, their legal team is really forward thinking about all of this, and they've gotten ahead of it in our forms and all of those things. But everyone is really very cautious about how commissions are disclosed, how they're negotiated, that plaintiffs' attorneys are still out there looking to go after everyone. I'm even being conscious right now, thinking about how I'm speaking about it. I'm like,
Oh my
wait, let me make
God.
sure I don't say anything that's going to get me sued. Right. So that's probably the biggest change to the industry that's very much been in the news headlines. But I think what's different in the industry in the last few years also would be how AI is impacting agents too. That's a really big deal. So
How is AI impacting agents? That was another one of our questions.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, so there's agents that are afraid of AI and think that it's going to put them out of business and that AI is going to do the job of the realtor. I don't think that is true. That's never been true. People have always needed an advisor for something as big as a home purchase. So our
Mhm.
role may change, but I think ultimately the smart agent of the future, like anyone who's considering real estate as a career right now and like listening to this, AI is only going to make your job easier. It's going to make you faster, better, stronger, and more data rich. Like you're going to have the data at your fingertips. But the flip side to that is that you have to know what's real data and what's not, because your client is also using AI to check you, right?
God.
They're checking
Mhm.
to see, do you know your stuff? Do you know, and is the data they're being fed correct? So you have to know your data backwards, forwards, cold, so that when your client brings you the wrong data, you can help them adjust and correct and all of those things. So I think really what AI is going to do is create a rift or a shift, like a divide kind of, between agents who are able to utilize it to their best in their business and agents who are afraid of it.
And I was going to ask, speaking of, it's not AI, but Redfin and Zillow and all these other competitors who come into the market, how has that impacted you or does it impact you?
So my business model, I've never paid Zillow $1, and I'm, like, really proud of that fact.
Okay.
Mm,
Um, I have not paid Zillow for leads, and my business has been built in other ways, but there are many agents in the marketplace who their entire business model is built on getting leads, client information from Zillow, and they pay hefty fees for that. And I would say that's also something that's evolved in the last few years. Zillow is under a lot of legal attack as well. Right now, they have a number of lawsuits that are coming at them. I mean, they've got RICO charges at this point. So, yeah. So, Zillow is a hot topic too. I have not built my business on that, but it's kind of like agents who a number of years ago, there used to be, like, a way to collect Craigslist data, like, people would post their
yeah.
listings on Craigslist and get leads that way, right? And then Craigslist changed their terms of service, and then all that went sideways for those agents. It's the same thing. Like, you always have to adapt and adjust in the marketplace.
You know, you mentioned your dad and being around that. I take it he was a big influence in how you kind of followed this career path. Can you talk a little bit about your influences?
Yes, he was a huge influence. Both of my parents were. And, my dad was a solo operator. He did have a few agents over time, but he really never wanted that. He didn't want to grow the business per se, but he grew his own personal production. And I think watching him do that, I don't think I had a true sense of what he was building at the time. I actually don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have because he built he built a really profitable business. He there's a local bank here in Long Beach that has a tagline of like small conservative and friendly or strong conservative and friendly, something like that, which you want in a bank. and
Right.
Makes sense.
and so he kind of adopted their attitude about that, He was like small but mighty. So that shaped the fact that I'm really proud of us being independent and boutique and not corporate. There are a lot of companies I could have signed on to that would have expanded my business in different ways. But I think I chose a little bit more conservative route. I chose to maintain ownership. I
Mm,
chose to really become agent focused and help other agents build their businesses. And like speaking of all the lawsuits in the industry and Zillow and large brokerages and the people who are suing Zillow and things like that, um, the corporations in real estate are making a play for the agent dollars.
mm,
And if you look at the mega teams that are being built and things like that, like it's actually all taking dollars out of agents' pockets. And that's not how I was raised or how our business was built. It was built so that you could make your own middle income. Like it was like this is the middle class income of owning your business. And right now what's happening is I think there's a lot of um technology and corporate influences coming after not just the agent dollar, but the dollars inside of the real estate industry overall. So I don't think that I knew at the time, Annie, that my dad had such an influence in that respect. But watching him build sort of that small but mighty force really put that inside of me. And so there's a lot of different partnerships or things that I could have done that I said, no, thank you. And I think that was to the betterment of my own financial well-being and also my agent's financial well-being.
mm,
If you look at teams that are being built in the real estate industry, well, the ones that work with portals like Zillow, for as an example, the lead comes in and they're taking a referral fee off the top, and the team is taking a fee off the top, and then the brokerage is taking a fee off the top. And so by the time you take, you know, let's say a $10,000 commission as an average number in California. By the time everybody takes a piece of that and then the agent gets their income and then they pay taxes on that, their per hour wage is like how many houses did you show? How many hours did you spend in traffic? How many, so I think that my my influences have really taught me a lot about what's the end goal? What are you doing it all for? Right?
Mm.
And you're doing it for, I mean, people joke about getting into real estate for freedom of time and freedom of their schedule. And honestly, if you're running a good real estate business, you don't have that. Like you do, but you are beholden to your clients, if not a boss per se. But they also do it to build independent wealth, right? To have that quote
Mhm.
unquote American dream. Like that's why people get into real estate. That's why they buy real estate. That's why people do it. So I think my influence is sort of instilled those types of values in me. And then I would also say just my dad obviously was a huge influence, but other influences in the industry. I'm part of a variety of coaching programs. Like I'm part of Tom Ferry Coaching, which has had a huge impact on me. I've been in that coaching program since 2011. Tom is he is the top industry real estate coach. And that system has taught me a lot about running my business like a business, about personal growth and leadership and building your business like a business, but also building your life and then your business around your life. So I would say Tom's had a really huge impact on me as well. Obviously, being in Southern California and being a USC alum, that's had a huge impact on me just through connections and honestly, like, being a part of something bigger than yourself, those types of things, like, even down to branding, right? I would say USC even impacted my perception of branding, right? Like, they do it well. So yeah, I would say those are some top influences.
We probably have hit on the subject already, but what would be the biggest surprise to someone who is not familiar with the real estate world about your job?
I think the first thing that hits you is like, "Oh, it's all up to me." Like, "Oh, no income is coming, no clients are coming. I don't have anything to do today unless I put it into my calendar, unless I find someone to talk to about real estate. Like, it's all up to me." And if you're not ready to be completely in control of your destiny, um, I think that's the biggest slap in the face when you first start, is that, you're like, "Where do I start? What do I do?" In fact, just tying it back, my dad wouldn't even hire me actually in the beginning. He was like, "Go get trained somewhere." He was like, "Go work
Go
somewhere."
someplace else so that he doesn't have to kind coach you right away, like, "Hey, you're not doing it the way I want you to do it," or something like that.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly. And he's like, "Right here." Yeah. Which I did for about a year in Marina Del Rey. I worked for, I would say I would have called them a small boutique as well, but they had about 100 agents and they had 4 offices in like Santa Monica, Culver City, Marina Del Rey. So building your own schedule is really more difficult than it seems. It seems like freedom when you're tied to the 9 to 5, right? But it's actually a lot harder than you think. And business development, generating business when you have none and nobody knows who you are is really hard. I think that's the biggest shock when you first start as a realtor.
what kind of education do you need?
You have to take 3 real estate classes. I think it's like principles, practice, and then like one other. They're all typically offered online, but they're also offered at community colleges. So you take those 3 classes and then you test. And then you take the test through the Department of Real Estate. They were pretty backlogged through COVID, but I think they're caught up now. And it's really just a test. And well, I mean, you have to submit to the Department of Real Estate like your fingerprints and they run you through a background
Right.
check and things like that since you're dealing with
Good
people's finance.
idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even that is not enough. I mean, I just had to do 45 hours of continuing ed for my broker license and the classes, it's supposed to be 45 hours, but I was able to take those tests faster, but they make you sit in the online class like for a certain number of hours. So, I was like, I can't take this test even though I've read everything. So, there's a barrier to entry, but I actually think the test should be harder because the
Wow.
reality is, and people always joke about this when they get into the industry, is that I think the running joke is like how many square feet is in an acre. It's like I had to learn those kinds of things, but I didn't learn how to develop a sales funnel. I didn't learn how to talk to people. I didn't learn any of the sales and marketing like skills needed to build a real estate business, but I did learn about, land and plots and utility, easements. And I learned some of those basic terminology things, but I didn't learn how to build a business. So that's, I think, the big challenge for people. Like they get their license, but they don't know how to build a business. So
That's a good point.
Wow.
I know an agent who has like a long time corporate background doing sales internationally, and she's had some really good years. She's in the Southern California market as well. She's had some really good years. But I actually think that that's hindered her to a degree. When you come into real estate with sort of that entrepreneurial spirit of like, I'm going to do whatever I have to do, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes, you're more willing to do whatever it takes. But when you come into it with like, well, this is how I always did it. This is how I always found clients. This is, we had a client database and this is who I called on, right? Well, then you're really kind of set in your ways of like how you've already done it. You maybe just wanted freedom in your schedule, but you've completely lost all of your infrastructure for sales. Like it all goes away, right? So you're building that database and that pipeline from scratch. And not everybody's cut out for that. Like, really, I think there's also like a running understanding that there are two types of people in real estate, and there are the extroverted talkers who just want to be with their clients, talking to their clients. That's definitely like my lane, FYI, in case that wasn't apparent. But it's like, give me all my people and let me just be with them, and they'll want to buy all the real estate because they love being with me, right? And then there's the people that are like, let me build the system. That's more the online leads, right? It's like, let me build the system, let me find a way to attract clients, let me find the right levers to pull that's going to put someone into my database, and we're going to call them on a regular systemized tracked way, and they're the operators, right? And so the operators do really well in real estate, but both of us need the other one in order to make it fly, right? So, like,
Mm.
my assistant is an operator because I need her to be. But somebody who is an operator running a business, they're going to need to hire like a more friendly sales associate that will talk to the people.
You've built a very specific niche within real estate, working with probate and trust sales, which most agents don't fully understand. Can you explain how that became such an important part of your work and what makes it different from a typical home sale?
So, the way that I'm different from other agents is that, and the way that my dad built his business, and I had the great fortune of being able to capitalize on that, is he built networking systems with attorneys and attorneys who handle probate and trust matters. So we get a lot of referrals from attorneys and professional trustees because we've built those relationships over the last 30 years. And not just the relationships, but we've built our systems and our contract structures, the way we protect our clients in the contract um, over those years. And it's becoming more and more relevant and prevalent right now with the great wealth transfer between boomers and Gen X,
Hmm.
and beyond, actually. And so when a trust sale happens and there's a successor trustee involved, or if there's a probate sale and someone's been appointed, so a probate happens when there's no trust in place and nobody has been designated as, who's going to close out this person's estate or their life, so to speak. And so whether it's a trust or a probate, somebody is in charge that is either an executor or a successor trustee. And that person likely didn't occupy the home. They likely live out of state. They are exempt from a lot of disclosure about a home that a regular homeowner would have to disclose about their home. Like you or I know, like, oh, this faucet leaks or this door sticks or oh, we had a flood over there, 2 years ago, whatever. So, in a successor trustee situation or an executor situation, that person is exempt from those disclosures. And a lot of times realtors get very focused on creating a product for sale, like fixing the home up, painting, all of the things that you would do to prep a home for sale. And that's not always the best course of action in this type of a sale because of that exemption. So we work with the attorneys, the trustees, the family members. And a lot of times there's a different situation there as well because there could be like 10 or 20 beneficiaries of this estate. So the actions that you take for your own home sale, they're your own risk, right? They're your own choices to take. Like, I'm going to paint this purple because I think that's going to sell better. Well, that's your own risk to take. That's your own asset, your own sale, right? But when you're acting on behalf of an estate, you're acting on behalf of the interest of the beneficiaries. And I feel even when realtors are trying to get into this very heavily right now because they see dollars, right? Like they
Mhm.
think there's a lot of sales to be had there. It's repeatable, it's scalable. But the reality is that the reason we're really in it is because we are protecting that client from getting sued by a beneficiary.
One thing that really stands out in how you talk about your work is how self aware you are about your strengths. How did that awareness develop over time? And how did it shape the way you actually work day to day?
So when I worked in escrow in Beverly Hills before I got my license, escrow is very much a systemized, checklisted flywheel that every single transaction is the same, even though they are all different, but they are all the same. And my organizational skills when I was in escrow were top notch because they had to be. So I tapped into that side of myself, right? Like, and once I got my license, those things carried forward with me. But now, 20 years later, like, please don't ask me to look at a checklist. Like, my brain won't do it. Like, I don't want to do it. And I literally will now speak my checklist into AI and send it as an email to my assistant because I don't even want to type that checklist anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I think as you become your more authentic self, like your skill set changes. Like, for example, when I worked in escrow, I remember I had a conflict with a supervisor because we would have a file stacker where like our files were laid out for us. And she would kind of lay out, like, okay, I want you to work on this file first, this file next, and they were like laid out in order. And my brain wouldn't do that. So what would happen is I'd pick up one file and I would want to make all the phone calls, right? So like we would have to order payoff demands for mortgages, and we would have, like there were and we would have to call the client, and there were things that were phone call based, and then there were things that were drafting and contract based. And so what I found myself doing is I would start on a file and I would make the phone calls, but then I would move to the next phone call or the next file and make the rest of the phone calls for that file. Like I wanted to stay in the activity and not the
Mm.
file. So by the end of the day, like I wouldn't be done with the file, quote unquote, until the end of the day because I had grouped my tasks differently.
Mm,
And it was driving my supervisor crazy because what she wanted was items 1, 2, and 3 on that first file all complete so that I
mm.
could give her the file back. And I mean, obviously that was a physical file back then because this was, I don't know, 2003. So it was a physical file and not a digital file. But it drove her crazy that I couldn't complete the whole file. And, I was in my early 20s then. So that was like a learning experience, right? I learned like, okay, like this is my working style. This is her working style. And so you have to collect those things about yourself as you go forward in your career of like, okay, I'm good at this, or I want to work in this way. I find he'll probably be annoyed that I share this, but I find that even with my husband, right? I want to say the things and he's super analytical and he wants me to email him a list. And I'm like, but I don't, like I don't want to take the time to write that emailed list. So I've used AI to help me hack that. But But anyway, so I think just self-awareness of your own strengths, like, that evolve as you build your career, right? So, I don't know. I get off topic a lot too, so sorry.
No, no, I thought that was actually on topic.
Paige, thanks so much for sharing your story today and giving us a real look at what your work actually involves.
Thank you, Paige.
I was just gonna say, Leanne, I did not know that much about real estate.
I
I
know.
mean, I've bought houses, with my husband. I have, seen other people buy houses. I've seen them listing, and I'm, like, crawling all over Zillow and Redfin because I'm just curious what other people's houses look like, but I never really understood that until Paige, introduced us to the difference between even a real estate broker and a sales agent.
And I was most interested in when she was talking about, people use Zillow as that's how they find clients, and which I did not realize you could do that.
Yeah, I've seen that when I've, actually been on Zillow, because you enter your information and it goes to
Mhm.
some, group of people or person, because there's usually an agent listed. But it is interesting from her perspective, like, how things changed. I was like,
Yeah,
"Wow, had no idea."
a lot. And just even things like you have to be video savvy, you have to understand how social media works, and all these things are everyone else is doing it too. So, it's I think there are a lot of challenges to being a real estate agent at this point.
Well, I think there's this, false sense that it's a very flexible job that, you just get into it and you go around showing houses and, you have your own schedule and all this stuff. But she made it very clear that it is a very challenging job, you know, mainly to find clients when you're starting out. So I had no idea.
And how much money can you make as a real estate agent?
Well, I think that depends on how active you are, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
How much you
she
can sell.
yeah, I mean, how many clients did you get and everything else, but, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics kinda put sales agents at a median salary of about 56,000 annually, and if
Good
you're a
lord.
broker, about 72,000 annually. Now, that's just a median, and that's across the country, so there
Would
are
I would
markets.
think in Southern California, it's probably a little higher.
Oh, I'm sure it's higher. But, you've got markets all over the country from, like, small rural areas all the way to, big city, high expensive properties. So that number is very, like, kind of general. I mean, that's the most general number I think you can get.
And it was also interesting that she was talking about the 2 different kinds of, um, like, real estate agents, like, one person wants to talk to you and one person wants to crunch numbers.
Yeah, I think you really need both, and it's kinda interesting when I was looking at, what kind of personality profiles. I mean, it's predominantly extroverted. I mean, you have to be really
Yeah,
comfortable with talking to lots of different people, selling yourself, as well as the product. But I think you really also need somebody who's kind of level headed and
yeah,
logistical too. I mean, there's a lot you have to juggle to even prepare, what the place looks like or,
yeah,
giving advice to your clients about what the house needs to look like to be able to sell it as best they
yeah,
can.
and I'm
So,
just amazed, like, even in my neighborhood, everybody stages. I was like,
yes.
everyone stages their houses, which that was a new well, I shouldn't say it's a new thing, but not everyone did that.
No, and I think it's also understanding how to showcase your properties really well. I mean, it's people are shopping with their eyes,
Yeah.
right? I mean, pictures matter, what it looks like in the pictures matter. I
TikTok
mean,
videos matter. Like, that's
yeah.
what's so shocking to me is like, oh, I'll turn on the television and YouTube, they'll be like, "Here's this wonderful home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath," and you're like, "Oh my god, we're doing a real estate ad on YouTube." But that's the norm now.
It is the reality now. I do think that the education, um kind of plays a part. I mean, beyond just the requirements. I mean, you have to obviously get a real estate license, so you have to study for that. And it's nice that you can do that through community college even.
Mhm.
There are classes offered to be able to pass it, but really it's on the job training. I
Yeah.
mean, like getting out there and hustling. I mean, there's a lot of hustle.
And then the broker, you have continuing education that you have to
That's
do.
true.
So,
Yeah, plus you have to know when real estate laws change or when,
uh,
companies like Zillow are being sued for certain types
Rico?
of practices. I mean, you kinda have to know these things.
Yeah.
But the good thing is that the job outlook, is good. I mean, the US, Bureau of Labor Statistics anticipates that over the next, 10 years, there's a 3% increase. I mean,
Huh.
there were over 100,000 brokers in 2024, so and, over 400,000 sales
Oh
agents.
my god.
So there are a lot of people
Oh,
who help sell real estate.
I just feel like it's such a temperamental industry. I feel like because we get, like, little flyers on our door, like, when
Mhm.
the real estate market is hot, boy, do we get flyers. We get tons of flyers, and
Yeah,
then when the real estate market cools down, they disappear.
it's crickets.
Yeah, it's crickets, and, I just think, man, like, uh, you don't have the budget to, like, do little flyers anymore? Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you just have to be really good about kind of uncertainty because
Yeah,
your job is not necessarily getting a steady income all the time. Like you
no.
can't count on it, and it takes a long time to, cultivate your clients. So I think like even Paige's decision to her company to do also probate, which is something that also is required by people within this field, was a good idea. So even then, you have different ways to be able to gather clients or work.
And what was interesting about that too is the emphasis that she places, on being ethical
Oh, yeah.
in dealing, and I was like, "Yeah, that's not something that is across the board." I don't know, like, we didn't have a probate buy, but, when we got our house, we caught the real estate agent stealing stuff from the house and taking it to his car, which wasn't great.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, and he turned around and he was walking to his car with, like, I don't know, clothes or whatever. I was like, and then he turned around or took it back in the house, and I had to say, "The stuff that's in the house, we bought that too. You can't take it."
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I mean, you have to make sure that you're dealing with somebody who's on the
Is
up
that
and up.
ethical? Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. But I mean, ultimately, if anybody's interested in becoming a real estate agent, these are some things you really have to think about, whether it's at the beginning or, change in career.
yeah,
Just have to really think about whether or not these types of skill sets and personality are things that you have.
yeah. It's not an easy gig by a long shot.
No, but I'm sure it can be fun for those who like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcast.